Hey guys, today we're going to do the second part of the appendicular skeleton. This is definitely not as good as being face-to-face, but it's the best we're going to be able to do. So this is the PowerPoint that is up online, and so you can go through that. And then I'm going to be putting up a practice quiz and an actual quiz, and then your lab manual's got some excellent pictures in it. And if I can get this to click. There we go. This YouTube channel that is about 9 minutes, that is Miss Johnson, and she does actually go through the appendicular skeleton. She goes through the entire thing, part 1, part 2, and she holds up each thing, which is great. I'm glad she already did that, so we have access to that. Unfortunately, we've been told not to go up to TC, and so I couldn't do that for you. But so all I've got for you is 2D, but again, she's got some awesome, it's an awesome video, so you can see her holding up the different bones, etc. But of course, your practical this time will be 2D, but that's okay. So here we go. So we're going to begin. We're talking about the pelvic girdle, and so your pelvic girdle is basically your pelvis area, and so that is comprised of the pelvic girdle altogether is your coxal bones, which basically your hip bones, and we've already done the sacrum and the coccyx, but you kind of still need to know that this is the sacrum and that little bone there is the coccyx, and these are called the coxal bones. So we'll be taught you have 2 of those. This is 10.6 in the lab manual. And so this is going to be a little bit hard to show in 2D, but again, if you watch Miss Johnson's video, you hopefully will understand, and then I hopefully can make it a little bit more sense to you on the slideshow as we go through. So the way these bones are positioned in your body, you have 2 coxal bones that are held together by the pubic symphysis, and then so the very top part of that is known as the inlet, and at the very bottom part is known as the outlet. Anything above the inlet, that is called the false pelvis. Anything right below that in here is called the true pelvis. So the true pelvis is actually in between where the inward part and the outward. And the best way I can kind of help you think about this is when a woman is about to give birth, they are going to be in true birth if that baby gets down into this area. They're in true labor. When the baby's still up higher, we say the baby, we're having false labor. So we have pelvic inlet, which is at the top, and I'm hopefully going to be able to show you better in the next slide. So the inlet, the outlet, between there is the true pelvis. Anything above the inlet area, so think of this as where your belly, your intestines and things would be, that is considered the false pelvis. So I'm just going to show you this picture, and then maybe this will make sense. One thing you need to be able to do is to tell whether it's a male or a female. So one of the things that you can tell, females are always going to have a wider inlet, and so this is actually showing the inlet part here. So the inlet here, this is the inlet of a male. This little angle here also, so anytime this angle gets greater than 90 degrees, then that's going to be a female, and you can see less than 90 degrees. If I were with you in class, I'd be having you make an L with your hand, and then you could put that up there to it. So this is definitely a male, and you can tell right here this is very narrow. The coccyx bone curves in more on a male, doesn't on a female, because the baby does have to go through this little area to exit. So right here where it's shaded in, that would be called the pelvic inlet. This is the pelvic inlet, Down below here would be the pelvic outlet. So down underneath here, again, if I had a 3D model, I could show you real well. And in between that top and down here where I'm moving my thing would be where the true pelvis would be. So between those spots, anything above this, so this area up here where our intestines are, up here between these hip bones, this little area here that I'm moving my mouse, that is where the false pelvis is. So false pelvis, true pelvis is underneath there, between there. This is the inlet and this is the outlet. And again, this is a female and that is a male. And you can tell female because they have a much broader, they say greater than 90-degree angle here with that pubic arch. Alright, so here again is the inlet. Down there would be the outlet. You can't really tell because I'd have to turn it around. Can you see this is a male. This is less than 90 degrees. This is more than 100, much wider space here for. So they're female. Alright, so here's our coxal bones. And so we're going to label all this stuff. I'm just going to go through the PowerPoint hopefully pretty quickly, and then we're going to label our thing, and then you're going to answer those attendance questions that you're going to see popping up in between. You're going to answer those in Moodle. So, alright, so your coxal bone is basically, you've got two of them, a left and a right, and they're actually made up of three bones themselves. They are connected here by the sacrum so that you can see that they're kind of joining there together, so that's kind of going to be an important feature of this bone. So this top part, and I love the fact that it's 2D, you can actually see on a white bone it's so much harder, and we would have been taking some tape and taping it off and see it. But so this top bone here where your hip, where you'd put your hands on your hip, is called the ilium. Okay, and then these front bones, so we're looking at the anterior portion here. Those are called the pubis, and in between that's the pubis symphysis, where that little connector there. So these are the pubis, and back in the back where your tush is, that's the ischium. The ischium is where your tush is. So if you got what they say a bony butt and you feel like you got to move around, you've been sitting for a lot, you might feel that way. That bone is rubbing there. So back posterior is the ischium, anterior is the pubis, and then superior is the ilium. Of course, there's that coccyx and that sacrum again. So coxal bone, coxa is another word for that. We'll just call it coxal bone. So here's just another picture of it. Basically, it is three bones that have gotten fused together. So again, there is the ilium. We are looking at the back portion. You probably can't tell. It's saying it's the lateral view here. This big socket area is where the femur ball and socket would go. This is a rough area on the ischium. That is the tough area, so that's why it rubs right there. And then this pointy area that you're seeing here is the pubic symphysis going on here. So these are just turned different, but you can always find the point. The point here is the pubic symphysis. The rough here is the ischium. Of course, ilium is pretty easy to figure out there. All right. So we're going to go through some features that you have to learn on the bone. And so we're going to start with that ilium. So that's just, again, showing the different ones. Another color one, three bones fused together there. So if we were in class, we would actually be making a little T out of our white bone, and you could see very easily everything above would have been the ilium, and then in the back, and we are looking at the posterior side here, this is the ischium, this is the back, and then everything posterior would be the, anterior would be the pubis. So this is facing the front area. Alright, so some features. We're going to start features on the ilium. So at the very top of the ilium, where you would basically put your arms or your hands on your hips, that is called the iliac crest. So the iliac crest is basically where you would be putting your arms on your hip. So that's also the iliac crest. So then you have this little groove area here, and you've kind of got a special nerve that goes through there. It's called the sciatic nerve. And if you've ever had any sort of sciatic pain, I know when I was pregnant with my son, he would get on the sciatic nerve and press against it and cause pain all the way down my leg. So if you have sciatica, you know what I'm talking about. So if you can remember, this is where a nerve is going to go. This is called the greater sciatic notch. The greater sciatic notch is of the ilium bone. It is on that top bone there. So the greater sciatic notch. And this is just showing that sciatic nerve running up through there, and that it gets pinched. And so if it gets pinched just right, it does cause pain all the way down your leg. So it does go up through that little groove. And do you see here that this is the sacrum? Well, there's this rough area on the ilium, and that is called the sacroiliac joint. It is where the sacrum and the iliac come together. And joints are like that. They have the two bones named together, so joints are pretty easy. So sacroiliac joint is that rough area where the sacrum and iliac come together. So you can see it right there. See how rough it looks there, and it's rough because those two bones are coming together. And there's that greater sciatic notch, and there's that sciatic crest. Okay, then on the pubis, you've only got I think two things that we're naming on the pubis, and so that is that, well, three technically. The pubic symphysis, which is here in the middle, which we've already kind of learned there. So you've got some smooth areas. So you've got a smooth area on bottom, and you're going to have a smooth area on top of the pubis. So this one is called the inferior pubic ramus, and this one is called the superior pubic ramus. So on the top here, that is going to be the superior, and then the inferior. That one's the inferior. This one's also looking at the inferior here. You just kind of have to know that that's the, again, we're turned sideways on this one. You can always find the pubis because it's got the point there. And so on the top, that is the superior ramus. And so that is also pointing at the superior ramus. So got this guy for he could turn a little bit so you could see this. So see that where that's your tush area? Okay, so that is the ischium. So we're going to now talk about what that tushy area is called there. And so that is called the ischial tuberosity. Remember, tuberosity means some sort of roughness, and there's a muscle attachment there. You have a gluteus muscle that attaches there, and it can rub against that. So ischial tuberosity is the rough area there on that bone, and so there it is again. And then we have these little points. Okay, I know there was a point on the pubis bone, but that's in the front. We are looking at the posterior view here. So this is my rear end, and that's the ischial tuberosity here. So these little points here. This is called the ischial spine. The bone is called ischium. Remember, is the noun, and then al goes with as an adjective there. So that little point there. That's the pubis bone there with the pubic symphysis there. So ischial spine. And then this is where your femur attaches. Your femur is your ball and socket, and this is called the acetabulum. Acetabulum, basically where the ball and socket would go. And then we got one more thing. We've got this big hole here, this big hole area. Get the acetabulum there, acetabulum. The big hole again, we know a word for hole. The word for hole is a foramen. This one sounds kind of like a transformer or something. This is called the obturator foramen. The obturator foramen. Alright, and then we have that angle, male or female we're looking at here. Hopefully you can tell that is a female. That is a big arch that we got in here, and that is called the pubic arch because that is the pubis bone, and it's called the pubis arch. And that connector there is the pubic symphysis. Pubic symphysis. So, alrighty, and that is the sacrum again, and we have it. We've already named it once because it was axial skeleton, but because we're talking about the pelvic girdle, it is part of our pelvic girdle going in. Can you see where the two bones are meeting there? All right, now we're going to move down the leg. So we just went with pelvic girdle, going down to lower limb. We find our largest bone is the femur. So there's our femur. And so anytime you see like I don't know, Fred Flintstone running around with a bone, he's probably running around with the femur. It's really large. Most students don't miss the femur. It's got this big ball looking thing on it there. So most students are like, okay, I got that. So really large one. So here are parts of the femur, and then we're going to label in just a second. So we have the head. Right below the head would be the neck. And then you have a larger bump area here. This is called the greater trochanter. The greater trochanter. The femur is the only one that has a trochanter. And then that's right across from the head. On the other side is a smaller one, which is called the lesser trochanter. The lesser trochanter. If you go down, the head always has to face medial in your body. If you look at it, it's got to go medial. As you come down, this is known as the medial condyle. Condyle or epicondyle? I think we wrote condyle, but epicondyle is what it's saying on here. So I'm thinking I will accept both of those. And then as we come down on the lateral side of your body, you get lateral condyle or lateral epicondyle. At this point in the game, we're not going to argue on whether it's a bump upon a bump or just a bump. So condyle, epicondyle, I will accept either one. Okay, and then we've got this groove in between here, which is called the intercondylar fossa. Fossa, remember, indention. So let's go through this. There's the head. This is the neck. This is the greater trochanter. That is the lesser trochanter. And then if you'll go head side down, this is the medial condyle. The other thing said epicondyle. I will accept both. Again, too late in the game to argue on that one. And so this is an opposite head side. That's how you can find. This is always medial. This is going to be lateral. And you see that's a really nice groove in between there. That is the intercondylar fossa. All right, moving down. You have two leg bones. Two lower leg bones. I should point out right now why it's there. You got your kneecap, that is the patella. Your kneecap is the patella. Alright, so you have the tibia and the fibula. Tibia and the fibula. The bigger one, the more tubby one, as one of my students pointed out, the tubbier one, the bigger one, that's the one that's on the big toe side. Big toe side, tubby, is tibia. Tibia. The smaller one is the fibula. Tibia, fibula. So this is the tibia bone. That's the tibia bone. It's got a little point here. This is making up your inside of your ankle, is what you're feeling there, the bone on the inside. That's important. So that's the tibia. The femur is sitting on those condyles or epicondyles are sitting on top of that up there. So now this makes up the inside portion of your ankle, so that's going to be important of this. This is the medial condyle. So if we just want to say condyle on these, it will be just fine. So the medial condyle of the femur sits on the medial condyle of the tibia. So, and in between those, you're going to see that patella, which is your kneecap. So that is medial, same side that this little thing is poking out, so that's going to help. So if that was the medial, this is the lateral. Coming down that bone, you have a rough area. This is a rough area on the bone. Rough area is where we would have the muscle that's holding your kneecap in place there. Oh, I'm so sorry. This rough area up here did not get marked here. That's up here. This is going to be the tibia tuberosity. This is a very spiky part, which is basically your shin. Okay, your shin is called the anterior crest. So the anterior crest up here is where the rough area is, the tibia tuberosity. There we go. I just had my little PowerPoints out of the way. So the tibial tuberosity, rough area, anterior crest of the tibia bone. As we move on down, we've got this thing poking, which I said is making up your ankle. I'm sorry that it looks like a stylus, but it's not. It's more pokey. It's called a malleolus, and we said that this was facing your middle part, so this is the medial malleolus. You do have a lateral malleolus, but it's actually on the fibula. So on your ankle, you can feel those two bones on the side. You're feeling those malleoluses, unlike the styloid processes of your wrist. All right, now we're going to go down fibula. So the fibula, this is what I was talking about. So that little area there, this is always lateral in your body. So this is the lateral malleolus. And then we just have a couple more things on the fibula. Oh, well, we do have the head of the fibula. Let me go back. I don't know why that didn't pop up. Up here is the head of the fibula. So that's so we have the head of the fibula, the lateral malleolus is all we need to label on the fibula. And then some of you, we went over the feet, so I won't go too far, but one or two of the classes we needed to go over the feet. So since it's here, we'll go over your, you have your tarsals, which are basically making up your ankle. You only have to learn two tarsals, which is your heel, which is this yellow one, and then that purple one there. The others you do not need to know. If you want to know them, there they are. Okay, so you have to learn the purple one, which is your heel, the calcaneus, and then the talus. The calcaneus and the talus. And as far as how the foot is named, it's named just like your fingers are named. Okay, we did say that the your big toe scientific name is called the hallux. So there is the heel, that's the calcaneus, and there is more of the ankle. The larger, second largest bone in the ankle is the talus. And then you got your metatarsals, and they are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Just like that. And then they also get that distal, middle, and proximal for your phalanges. And remember, phalanx is really the correct term for singular, but I'm quite fine if you do phalange for singular. So I will accept both. So, and I will accept 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of the Roman numerals. So I think the feet are pretty easy. All right, so that's all of the PowerPoint. All right, so now we're going to label the rest of our pages. So I've uploaded this, but some people can't see that for some reason, so I'm going to just put it on the video. That way it'll be there as well. So some of us, we already labeled this, but some of us have not. So this ankle bone here, this is the talus. And then our heel bone is the calcaneus. Okay. And so you are looking at these middle bones. These are the metatarsals. And if we put one on a certain dot on one or the other, such as I put a dot here, then you would name that metatarsal number 4. Okay. These are pointing at your phalanges. And again, you will use those terms. My dog is barking in the background. I do apologize. Okay, we use the terms proximal, middle, and distal. And then that scientific name for your, and that's how I'll question it, the scientific name for your big toe is the hallux. And then this thing right here is just pointing at the general term for your ankle bones is what that's referring to. And that all together are called your tarsals. Those are your ankle bones. Again, apologize for my dog. So the talus and calcaneus are two bones that are part of your ankle. All right. And we get to this one. This one's a little harder again to see in a 2D format. PowerPoint's really good. So first off, this is your coxal bone. And so then this bone here is your sacrum. Okay, and you got your coccyx down there. Here at the top, this is your ilium, and this is your iliac crest. That is the iliac crest. This is just showing general that this top bone is your ilium. So if I ask for the bone, you would put ilium. If I ask for the feature on the bone, you would put iliac crest. You don't necessarily have to say iliac crest of the ilium because it says iliac crest there. So, and this is showing this top portion here. So I don't know if you can tell, but it's circled around. And so that is pointing at the pelvic inlet. Pelvic inlet. We're not going to label that. I didn't get all the little things taken off of there. I'm so sorry. This is where the femur is going in. So this little indentation part here, that is the acetabulum. I say ace because it's ACE, and then it's tab, TAB, ulum, acetabulum. Okay. This is pointing to the smooth portion up here of that pubis bone there, and so that is the superior ramus of the pubis. And then this is pointing to that entire backbone, and if we really wanted to be specific, but we're going to label it down on that next one. So this is the bone itself. And so on that, when your workbook, if it's asking for bone, you would just put bone, but if it's asking for feature, you'd be more specific. So this bone, if I said, well, I want to know what this bone is, this is the ischium, because that is that back one. It's really hard to tell. This is pointing to that little connector area there, and that is the pubic symphysis. And this is pointing to the circle, and that's that obturator for Raymond. Make sure I don't misspell. You do have a things to study just in case I do misspell it there. So this is supposed to be just pointing to the bone itself. And so the bone itself is the pubis bone. And let's see. Did I get everything that I think I want on that? We're not naming any of those. So let's go to the next one where it's turned around a little bit. So we are looking at a posterior view, and this is almost the same one that was on the PowerPoint. So this is the iliac crest. Oh goodness, get my eraser out. The iliac crest. And this has like a little T in there. Okay, so everything top is the ilium, and then this whole area is the acetabulum, ace, tab, Okay, and again, this is the ilium. I'll just write it on there because those are pointing to some things we don't need. All right, on the ilium, we've got the greater sciatic notch. Of the ilium. And as we move now, this one with the point, we are getting to the pubis. So this is the pubis bone. And here at the bottom where we're looking at where it's smooth, this is the inferior. Technically, both of these are pointing at the inferior ramus. Yeah, I went crazy. Okay, we got the hole again, and that's the obturator foramen. Technically, it's on all the bones because it's connecting them. Well, it's not connecting them, it's the hole. All right, this is the rough area of this, and so the rough area where your tush is, that is the ischial tuberosity. That's that rough area. And the bone here is what that one's pointing at. Don't worry about that one. This is the ischium. So if I ask for the bone, ischium. If I ask for the rough area, ischial tuberosity, last thing is this little point here. That one we don't need to know. So the pointy area there, that is the ischial spine. All right, phew, that one was tough. That was a tough bone. All right, moving on over to the femur. Femur a little bit easier. This is the femur. Okay, so we've got, this is the head of the femur, also the head of the femur. This is the neck of the femur, and you would put of the femur, you'll see on those practice ones. And then across from the head, there's this large thing. It's also here. So this is the greater trochanter. That's it too. And then right here is a smaller bump, and that is the lesser trochanter of the femur, All of them would be of the femur. It's also there. Okay, now we're going to move on down. So this is the head side. So then you've got these bumps. On the head side, remember this is going to have to face inward. So this is the medial condyle. And this one over here is the lateral condyle. And in between is that intercondylar fossa. So this groove in between. The intercondylar. And then it's a, oh, let's see if I can get it to move down some. Well, oh, I can still write there. Looked like that was the end of the page. That's an R. All right. That's all we got on the femur. Not too bad. Ah, this little round bone. That's your patella. Your kneecap. That was easy. And then you've got your bottom leg bones. That is your tibia and your fibula. So you've got, and this one is the smaller one. So this one is the, I'm going to say the fibula. Remember fibula. And then the tibia. So the bigger bone is the smaller word. The bigger bone is tubby. I used to say you don't want to give big fibs, you want little fibs. You don't want to do any fibs. But so the tubby one. All right. So if you can think about where this is sitting in your body, this is your inside of your ankle. So we're going to start there. This is your medial malleolus. So if this is your medial malleolus, if I go up here, oh, I have labeled that wrong. This is your medial condyle. Medial malleolus, medial condyle. So if that's your medial condyle, this is your lateral condyle of the tibia. I'm on the tibia right now. This is that rough area. I'm going to even label it here as the rough area. Remember, a rough area is where some sort of muscle is getting attached. This is the tibia, tibial tuberosity. And then this is this sharp, oh goodness gracious, that shouldn't be that bad. It's a real narrow ridge. Those of you that play soccer, you can feel it. You can get a lot of extra bumps on there. This is where you wear that shin guard. This is your shin. This is the anterior crest. It's a raised up area. You definitely can feel it. Anterior crest of the tibia. Alright, that's all the tibia. We just have a couple things on the fibula. So, if this was the medial malleolus, then coming across, this is making up your ankles here. This is the lateral malleolus. And this is just pointing to the fact that that's the fibula. We're not going to do the fibular notch, which is where they're coming together there. Not really hard though. And then the last part is this round part. That is the head of the fibula. Oh, I don't know where that word is. We'll take advantage of it. There we go. Alright. I think we got everything labeled. So please email if you have any questions. You're going to be taking those online quizzes. From this video, you're going to be answering those questions that are showing up as attendance, and that's how I'm marking attendance. So you'll go into you should see it under assignment on your my TC page. So let me know if you have any questions. This needs to be done by midnight on Tuesday. Have a good evening.